Ladies and gentlemen, so in today's video we're going to do an update about the Shemitah. So I've done a video in the past about this topic. I had really positive feedback, people reaching out to me, and I've been learning a bit more about this topic. So let's get to it. So the Shemitah is the Sabbath year, literally meaning release. Also called the sabbatical year, is the seventh year of a 7-year agricultural cycle mandated by the Torah. The Shemitah mandates debt forgiveness and that field workers rest. Other meanings I found of Shemitah, or let's say other interpretations, or what Shemitah might represent, is the shakening, collapse, fall, renew, or reset. In the book of Leviticus, God spoke to Moses at Mount Sinai, telling him to speak to the Israelites and say to them, "When you come to the land that I am giving you, the land must be given a rest period, a Sabbath to God. For 6 years you may plant your fields, prune your vineyards, and harvest your crops, but the 7th year is a Sabbath." So traditionally, this agricultural cycle mandated the Jewish people to work the land for 6 years, plant seed, harvest, but on the 7th year to let the land go to rest. Now with time, people have noticed that there've been major events happening during Shemitah. There were the rise of empires, the fall of empires, beginnings of wars, ending of wars, and financial collapse. So this is where I'm mostly going to be focusing on this video, is the financial impact that occurs during a Shemitah year. Almost all financial collapses occur during a Shemitah year. So when I've looked in the past 100 years, almost all Shemitah years have been impacted financially. So currently we are in a Shemitah year. When we look at the Gregorian calendar, where most of us follow, the Shemitah year started September 7th, 2021, and will end this September 25th, 2022. Another interesting note is that September, or Sept, equals 7th. So technically, it should have been our 7th month. Now, if we look at the Hebrew calendar, this year would be 5,782. Now, if you add all these numbers up, you'll come up with number 22, and that is considered a master number, a master builder, or sometimes a destroyer. So here are the Shemitah years in the past 100 years, except the one that occurred in 1923 until 1924. Now, if we have a look at it, almost every Shemitah year had some kind of drastic economic collapse or recession. So when we look at the year 1916 until 1917, there was a 40% of the U.S. stock market value was wiped out. The German, Austro-Hungarian, Russian, Ottoman empires collapsed. Britain was almost bankrupt, and this occurred during the First World War. In 1930 until 1931, this was the Great Depression, or the beginnings of the Great Depression. It was a severe worldwide economic depression between 1929 and 1939. 86% of the United States stock market value was wiped out in the worst financial crisis in modern history. In 1937 until 1938, there was a 50% U.S. stock market crash, global recession. The recession was an economic downturn occurring during the Great Depression. The following year was the beginning of World War II. So in 1944 and 1945 was the end of the World War II, and also the establishment of the Bretton Woods system, making America the world's superpower. Following Shemitah year was 1965 until 1966. 23% of the stock market value was wiped out, and this was beginning of the building of the World Trade Center, which later in the Shemitah year would collapse. In 1972 until 1973, 48% of the stock market value was wiped out. Global recession due to the collapse of the Bretton Woods system in 1971. So the Shemitah of 1979 and 1980, there was a global recession. The 1979 oil crisis, also known as the 1979 oil shock, was an energy crisis caused by a drop in oil production in the wake of the Iranian Revolution. The Shemitah year of 1986 till 1987, this is when Black Monday occurred. Black Monday is the name commonly given to unexpected stock market crash on October 19, 1987. 33% of the U.S. stock market value was wiped out. In 1993 until 1994, there was a bond market crisis, or a great bond massacre. Was a sudden drop in bond market prices across the developed world. Now, the year 2000 and 2001, we had the dot-com bubble burst. So 38% of the U.S. stock market value was wiped out. 9/11 occurred at the end of the Shemitah year, and this caused a global recession. In 2007-2008, there was the subprime mortgage crisis. So the bankruptcy of Lehman Brothers on September 15, 2008 was the climax of the subprime mortgage crisis. 50% of the U.S. stock market value was wiped out, causing a global recession. Now, in the previous Shemitah in 2014 until 2015, there was this Chinese stock market crash. Now, analyzing a lot of these charts in these crashes, recessions, it takes pretty much over a year, sometimes 2 or even 3, like in the Great Depression. It took a really long time for the market to recover. But it takes over a year to 2 years for the market to kind of find its bottom from the beginning of the Shemitah. So we're just going to kind of map these out and see how much time. So right here in the green is when a new Shemitah year starts, which lasts roughly 1 year. And usually it is in the month of September. So all of these ones will be in September, the beginning of a Shemitah year. For 2001, which was the dot-com bubble, so it took the market roughly over 668 days to find a bottom. If we have a look at 2007 Shemitah, from the beginning of the Shemitah till we find a bottom, we are roughly looking at 545 days until it found its bottom, and then it continued up. So the Shemitah of 2014-2015 is a little more tricky because it mostly affected the Asian markets, but you can see it was still fairly stagnant during that time. So we're going to see roughly where it did bottom out from the beginning of this Shemitah to this bottom right here. Let's say we have 517 days. So let's have a closer look right now where we're at currently. And you can see with this chart, once the Shemitah began, we really had a lot of volatility. We started heading down, we recovered, we did a new all-time high and started heading down again. Tried to recover, couldn't, kept on going down. Could this go higher than here? Anything is possible. But the closer we get to the end of the Shemitah year, I do believe if history repeats itself, how it's repeated several times in the past, we will be heading down. And this downturn could last 1 more year. So this is a couple of magazine covers from The Economist. A lot of people believe there's kind of hidden messages in these covers, or they kind of maybe predict the future. There's a little bit of conspiracy surrounding these covers. But we're just going to look at the cover that got released in the beginning of the Shemitah year, which was September. This one in September 2021. The cover shows Alice in Wonderland basically themed. And we're looking at cryptocurrencies falling. You can also see the dollar, the stock market, justice, and maybe this is the government. I'm not quite sure, but I would guess maybe that's the government. And it seems that there's going to be, it almost indicates that there will be big change coming up soon. Now, this was the one of the last months cover. This was in May 2021, the coming food catastrophe. So there's a lot of talk about food shortages in the news lately. And, there have been crazy stuff going on, like some food processing plants catching on fire, being hit by an airplane, just a lot of craziness. We're in the middle of a war, which they supply a lot of the wheat and a lot of the grain. And you can see the cover would almost signify Shemitah to me, because traditionally, since it is linked to agriculture, and in the Shemitah year you have to have your land rest, but that doesn't mean nothing's going to grow. Things are going to be growing, but they're not going to be taken care of, and they will go to waste. And this is what kind of signifies for me Shemitah. Farmland is there, but no one's taking care of it, and the food will go to waste. Now, another thing I've heard other people talk about when referring to Shemitah is Tertiary, the first month of the Jewish year. The Hebrew month of Tertiary begins with the holiday of Rosh Hashanah, the festival of the Jewish New Year. Tertiary occurs in September or October on the Gregorian calendar. Now, what I heard about this month, the month of Tertiary, it is the beginning of the new year in the Jewish calendar. Why I'm mentioning this is a lot of the major events occur either in September or in October. So I wouldn't be surprised if this September coming up, we do have major events. It could be something related to war, cyber attacks. They're already preparing us for so many things that it is possible, if we do repeat ourselves, that something big will come up in September or October. And we have an example in some of the past Shemitahs, like we had Black Monday occur on October. The World Trade Center attack was in September, and the bankruptcy of Lehman Brothers was in September. The next Shemitah year will be in 2028, 2029, and this is going to be the Hebrew year of 5789. Now, looking at numerology or gematria, which is basically Jewish or Hebrew numerology, when we add up these letters with their corresponding number and reduce them down to a number, Shemitah equals 7. Reverse, we have 11. The coronavirus equals 11, and reverse, we have 7. Ukraine equals 7, and reverse, we have an 11. And we also have a 22, which is the current year we're at, 2022. Food shortage, we have those 7s, and we also get those 11s. And they all kind of match in some way in the numbers. Another thing that I found kind of interesting is this tarot deck, the number 16. So if you do reduce 16 to a digit, it will become 7. And this kind of also could signify the Shemitah for me. At least this is my interpretation. The tower, So the tower is a fall. You're falling in the tower. This could also signify change and moving on to something new. So this is just something interesting that I found. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so that is it for today's video. I just wanted to share a few of those things with you guys that I just learned. Now, this topic, there's a lot more to this Shemitah than what I'm showing here. There's religious aspects to it, religious events that occurred in the past. There's astrological events. I know people talk about the blood moon, the return of Christ, the return of, let's say, God's heaven, tribulation. There's talks about that. So with this topic, you can definitely go in a lot deeper, but I just wanted to make things more simplified, and I'll love to hear what you guys think. And my main focus is mostly on education, trying to educate myself and being prepared if we go into really tough times, and trying to see how to navigate this world we're in and to come ahead. And hopefully, you guys can join me on the ride with these videos. All right, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, peace.